Hello and welcome to Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Shafara Olako. Do stay with us. Now, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says his government has double responsibility for free and fair election. He made the remark while holding deliberations with regional presidents and leaders of the National Election Board of Ethiopia. The premier added that the next election will move Ethiopia forward, as the government is ready to fulfill its civic duty. Kasahun Chane has the following story.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the government has a double responsibility to ensure this year's general election is peaceful, free and fair across the country. The Premier convened with regional presidents and National Election Board leadership to follow up on the direction provided in a meeting of last week.
The upcoming elections are consequential in Ethiopia's democratization process. I would like to urge all stakeholders to do their utmost in delivering a successful and peaceful election. Concerning the current security incidents, I call upon citizens to depart from emotion-led actions, rather work together for the stability and peace of the country.
Following National Elected Board of Ethiopia's report that many polling stations were still pending, regions committed to ensuring request support to expedite the setting up of stations. Resultantly, both National Elected Board of Ethiopian regions confirmed the progress made over the past week to set up polling stations and register voters.
To mention a few, I could start with the region where there is no election polls. I would like to advise you now, and hopefully you are going to solve these problems after you return from here, as there were border demarcation and some other areas where there were conflicts. There are still a lot of polling centers which are not yet opened in some affected areas.
The meeting also explored security preparedness among all regions in ensuring that the elected process is peaceful and unhindered by agents of instability.
I would like to assure you that as the regions have given due attention to the upcoming national election and working devotedly, there are some implications that help to infer as there may be a favorable condition ahead. In this regard, the National Security tried to conduct an assessment on the National Electoral Security Committee statement and confirmed that, with the exception of a few hotspots, many polling stations throughout the country are ready to peacefully undertake elections.
It was noted that in most states, voter registration performance is over 50%, and the board will discuss to decide on the extension, requesting voter registration to be extended ahead.
Now moving to news in connection with the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. A political science researcher and international relations expert at the Redawa University slams Egypt and Sudan for the frequent interruptions of the GERD talks. In an exclusive interview with ETV, the expert Surafel Getaun reiterates that the three countries have no other option but to stick to EU-led negotiation respecting the notion of African solutions for African problems. Alula Teklamariam reports.
Ethiopia is erecting Africa's biggest hydropower dam for its quest to a substantial economic improvement by providing ample electric power to the more than 100 million people it inhabits. But Egypt fears the dam will imperil its supplies of Nile water, while Sudan is concerned about the dam's safety and water flows through its own dams and water stations. Consequently, trilateral talks over the GERD have been interrupted as the downstream countries fail to accept Ethiopia's natural and legal rights to use its natural resources. In an exclusive interview with ETV, a political science researcher and international relations expert at the Redawa University, Surafel Getaun blamed Egypt and Sudan for the frequent interruption of the GERD negotiations.
Look, when it comes to the GERD negotiation, actually, it's almost 10 years, but no fruit. Because of stagnant position of both the countries, upper states of Egypt and Sudan, which is really, this country from the beginning the most obstacle for the Nile River cooperation in this regard, or Nile Basin. So still, when you come to GERD, these countries create their own problems. You see the African Unions, the recent African AU-led negotiations are failed. Previously negotiations are failed because of the positions they held, right? So I see, even the current negotiations failed due to, just disturbance created because Egyptians are obstructionist. From the beginning, we see, due to that, there is no progress in this regard.
Surafiel further expressed the need for more investment in the public diplomacy sector to share Ethiopia's positive intention for equitable utilization of the Nile water.
I suggest government, just to strengthen its relation with the foreign countries, especially by creating awareness about the dam, the importance of the dam, how really important the dam is important, not for Ethiopia, but the entire region, especially in terms of, just achieving, elevating sustainable development challenge, energy issue, energy securitization, which is important need, by the way. In this regard, why Ethiopia needs this dam? Government need to work hard with public relations, with creating awareness throughout the world. Through our embassy need to work in this regard. Our diplomats work hard in this regard, because that is one way we can win Egypt, because it's an international campaign, the smearing campaign of the name of Ethiopia internationally. So Ethiopia is always committed for international peace and security. Ethiopia always obeys the international law. But what the Egyptian government do is, they are smearing the name of Ethiopia through international environment. This is what governments need to commit in this regard, by creating awareness, at the same time by working public diplomacy with different countries. That is the target of the government,
The political expert calls on Ethiopian scholars and the public in general to contribute share in maintaining the country's national interest.
The general public need to be, united, united in this regard. People need to be united for common joint interest. It's a national interest. Nile is not, GERD is not belong to some political party group or some ethnic group. It is a whole Ethiopian interest. The money are collected from the whole Ethiopian without considering ethnicity or religious differences. So in all Ethiopians, without any difference, they have to be united for joint interest. At the same time, scholars need to work hard, especially, scholars, those who engage in different researches, those scholars who are really working abroad in different international organizations, institutions, and UN, and other. They need to create awareness, by the way, in this regard. They are also diplomats of Ethiopia.
Ethiopia is determined to execute the second filling of the dam this rainy season, deal or no deal.
In another story, an Ethio-American water resource expert defies Sudan's call for a closed-door meeting over the GERD. Urging Ethiopia to make any negotiation open, the expert underscores that changing the role of observers or mediators over the negotiation does not help to solve the issue. Goshumal Sahu reports.
Last week, Sudan called its counterparts Egypt and Ethiopia for a closed-door meeting over the filling and operation of the GERD. In an exclusive interview with ETV English regarding the call, an Ethiopian-American water resource expert, Russo Asafa, suggested that there is no need to have a closed-door meeting over the issue.
Sudan is invoking an article which is in the 2015 Declaration of Principle that the three countries signed. I cannot speculate what they would do in a closed door if they accept that. I did not hear from both Egypt and Ethiopia accepting that, but I can say what they should do in an open door, which is don't politicize the issue. They should be able to at least get into a filling agreement. Currently, there is excellent water resources. We see forecasts for the summer to be above average rainfall and hydrologic condition. Egypt is at 20 years high storage in the Aswan High Dam. Ethiopia is planning to take 13.5 billion meter cubes. This will not impact at all.
Russo explained that changing the role of observers or mediators over GERD negotiation doesn't help to solve the issue, as the matter lies between the three countries.
Changing the role of observers or adding more mediators and bringing more people into this negotiation, I believe will not solve the underlying major agreement. they do need, the three countries need to address the major issue. They have to address the elephant in the room, which is water sharing. So there is a fundamental major disagreement on what they are dealing. So as you see some of the proposal from Egypt, what you are seeing is that there is a water sharing agreement bundled in those release scenarios of drought and prolonged drought, which translate to 0% allocation for Ethiopia. And Ethiopia find that a non-starter. As you can imagine, the country producing 86% of the total Nile flow should get something. So I think by changing observers, by bringing more institution into mediation, will not change the underlying disagreement.
Commenting on the negotiation process, Rousseau underlined that there is no other alternative than roundtable discussion to address the issue.
I think, in my opinion, they have to go back to the negotiating table. There is no other alternative than that to address this issue. I believe if they stop using GERD as a water sharing instrument, I'm pretty sure they will be able to reach at least the first filling agreement that can satisfy all the three countries and work through other issues that probably will take more time. So I think for me, going back to the negotiating table is the way to solve the problem.
If the three countries deliberate smartly, Rousseau said, the water is enough for all riparian countries to their quest for development.
There is enough water in the basin today. And in the future, they could work on how they could diversify, the smart way of using both the supply and demand side and address that. And we can talk that as well. But there is enough water if there is a will that they should be able to solve this problem. But without addressing the major issue here, which is the unfair water allocation, and trying to use the GERD as a negotiation, a water sharing instrument, it's not going to work. And because you bring other mediator or others, they're not going to change the fundamental issue here.
It is to be recalled that Ethiopia Wednesday suggested meeting of Bureau of the Assembly of the AU to end standoff over GERD talks.
Now, moving to other news story. The Ethiopian Science and Higher Education Ministry urges universities to actively engage in fostering Ethiopia's overall development. At a conference held in Walaita Sodo University, some 15 Ethiopian applied science universities have launched their 10-year strategic plan. Demis Mokro presents the story as follows.
Ethiopia has 52 state-owned universities, of which 47 of them are classified according to their excellence. The country has now 15 applied science universities, and they disclosed their 10-year strategic plan at a conference held in Walaita Sodo University. During the event, Ethiopian Science and Higher Education State Minister Professor Aforkaso urges the institution to engage in fostering Ethiopia's overall development.
የአፕላይድ ሳይንስ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ልዩ ተልዕኮ የተሰጣቸው የሀገራችን ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ናቸው።
Applied science universities are given special mission to speed up Ethiopia's development. We as a country can move forward to prosperity if we work more in the industry sector. We can also be harnessing all the agriculture, tourism and mining sectors as well if we exploit them with proper knowledge. So your role is irreplaceable.
ለአፕላይድ ሳይንስ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች ይህንን የኢትዮጵያን ራዕይ
Professor Aforkaso comments academic research performance of different universities and their contribution in the fight against COVID-19, quoting their last 9 months' performance report. He also appreciated the university's focus to utilize indigenous knowledge in their academic research and called upon them to further strengthen such best practices.
በተለይ ኮቪድ በቴክኖሎጂ በፈጠራ ዙሪያ ብዙ ነገር ነው ዩኒቨርሲቲዎቻችንን ያሳየው።
Unlike any of their engagements before, our university academicians worked better in the fight against COVID-19. Their innovative work has indeed brought meaningful change. This exemplifies you have a lot to contribute in other sectors.
Ethiopia is aspiring to maintain paths of development, and the applied science universities vowed to contribute their share sooner than later.
Now, Ethiopian ambassador to Russia, Alemayehu Tegenu, held discussion with Russian investors on ways to penetrate into the Ethiopian market. Business communities drawn from 30 cities of Russia, representatives of government and private institutions, members of the diplomatic community and religious leaders were part of the discussion. Mining, energy, information, communications, manufacturing, and technology transfer fields, among others, are suitable investment sectors for Russian investors. The ambassador has elaborated on the meeting.